amazing example of a leader of our time who has made incredible sacrifices and accepted almost unbelievable amounts of discomfort and pain in order to accomplish what he has been able to accomplish. And what we wanted to do was just quickly go through a case study of Edhi and to discuss a few of the areas from his book where he highlights some of those sacrifices that he's had to make. And probably many of these you're familiar with since you've read much of the book, but it will be a really helpful memory for us in order to appreciate what has made Edhi Sab. So the first one is, and I'll just read it and then I'll explain it. The dispensary was never shut. I was always in attendance, sitting outside it after the markets closed, then sleeping on the cement bench to serve those who came late at night. So I'm sure you all remember this from the early chapters when he first set up the dispensary. He talks about sleeping on a bench, not even going home, much to his mother's dismay, because he couldn't bother to leave the dispensary unattended, just in case some people came. Third example, I hired and fired, searched for potential talent, and dismissed lethargy, stupidity, slackness, and excuses. Everyone was petrified of me. Here, Edhi Sab talks about his team and how he had to build up the team, but how he was also relentless in hiring and firing. And as a result, people were petrified of him, which might not seem like a big deal, but if you spend your entire day and night at work and you're surrounded by people that are afraid of you or who are not your friends or who are not able to connect with you, then that's actually very difficult and a very lonely thing. And again, this was what Edhi Sab felt was necessary in order to grow his organization. And so he was very strict in order to develop the right kind of mentality and the right kind of consistency amongst his team. Seventh example, Edhi Sab says, erasing of the self was imperative. It was necessary. It was important. Everything unrelated to welfare and humanity work must go. Even the songs I heard on the transistor radio were turned off. This is not your subject, I told myself. Do not lose yourself for a minute. I repeated it to myself all the time. Each moment must be invested towards that far away goal in the future. This is how dedicated Edhi Sab was. He knows the value of 1,440 minutes in a day, and he is completely strict about each single minute. So much so, he's not even allowing himself to listen to the radio because he doesn't want to take away from his work. That is commitment. That is the kind of sacrifices he's willing to make. A hopelessness overwhelmed me. He's talking about not being able to find a wife. A hopelessness overwhelmed me. There might, after all, be no wife for me. I proposed to 7 other girls in a period of 2 years. Each refused on the pretext that I was either too poor or too strict or too religious or too much of a miser. So probably you guys remember this from the book where he had proposed to not 7 but 8 total girls in a period of 2 years and got rejected by every single one of them. And here he's talking about that was the price that he had to pay for being strict or being poor or being religious or being a miser. And he realizes that this is why he was getting rejected, but he's not changing. And the reason why he's not changing is because he knows that's what he needs to do in order to achieve his goals. And so these are the struggles of Edhi Sab. These are the sacrifices that he's been able to make. It's easy to look at Edhi Sab, it's easy to look at Edhi Foundation and say, oh, 50 million people impacted, 300, 400 welfare centers, 2,000 ambulances, hundreds of thousands of volunteers throughout the 60 years he's been working on it. But the fact is that all of that has happened only as a result of sacrifices that Edhi Saab and his team and his organization have made. By the way, it's not just the sacrifices he's made, but his entire organization, from Bilqis on down, are making similar types of sacrifices in order to extend the impact, in order to reach more people, in order to help humanity in the best way. And so we can learn from Edhi Saab, we can learn from how he has been able to become such an amazing role model and hero for Pakistan and for all of the world.